Honorable, good evening.
Good evening, Paul.
How embarrassing was what happened yesterday?
No, truly embarrassing. Really sad day, Black Wednesday. I mean, in this modern day, how could recruitment into the military result in stampede, the soldiers we have military police who are trained to ensure that even when civilians situations are getting out of hand, they keep it under control. But here we are, 6 young ladies haven't died. But it tells a lot.
Ladies, that makes it more tragic.
Very vulnerable. Ladies are very vulnerable.
They were stepping on them?
They were stepping on them.
My goodness.
Some fell down. This morning when we visited the Committee on Defense and Interior, myself, the chairman, Honorable Agaga, we went to 37 Military Hospital. You would be so sad to see the victims, boys, young men, young ladies. And there were even 5 who were in ICU. And by the nature of their condition, we didn't even want to get there for cameras to capture them, fighting for their lives. This is a reflection of a deep leadership crisis within the defense system in this country. And I agree with you on the very passion that you have had to outline how the standards of military is degenerating. Something fast has to be done.
Something has to be done.
Because in the past, this is not the first time we are having military
I've seen that. So what happened this year?
Over the years, we've had it. You recall, even in 2008, people are there, it's because this time around, there's many applications. Recall that in as far back as 2008, during President Kufuor's time, the director of manpower at Ghana Armed Forces was Honorable Colonel Kojo Damwa, the Member of Parliament for German South, my respected colleague. And he saw that there was 58,000 applications. So decentralized. In those days, we had 10 regions. But he still further realized that by data, the applications coming to El-wak alone, Greater Accra alone, was overwhelming. So he had to further decentralize Accra recruitment.
What did he do?
So he created extra centers so that he scheduled the applicants, the potential recruits, to various places, Carnegie Sports Stadium and other places at different times. So that in very decent and orderly manner, they'll be attended to. And so we need to, but I want to, first and foremost, commiserate with the bereaved families, families who have lost their loved ones, their dear ones, our dear citizens, may their souls rest in peace. Our sympathies are with the wounded who are fighting for their lives. These deaths and these injuries must count for something. They ought to be compensated. They ought to be, for those who are alive, even further to compensation, they need to ensure that when they recover, the kind of injury is such that even when you recover, you'll not be fit to get into military. Alternative, sustainable job has to be secured for them. But we'll come to that. So
was it poor planning?
Very poor planning. What should have been done, and what was always done in the past, is that when the online applications are received, at the back end, you'll be able to know the numbers that selected various centers, and then you schedule according to the numbers that have come. And you further have to categorize it into those who selected Army, selected Navy, who selected Air Force, and different dates are scheduled for them. You would also observe that much more numbers would select Army. So they will further schedule them according to days and send them specific text messages, giving them specific days that they ought to report to manage the numbers. But even when there had been such numbers, which were quite overwhelming, there had been deployment of adequate numbers of military police. Can you guess how many military police were deployed? 2.
Oh, are you
2
serious?
per every regional center. So 2 military police were deployed.
Accra was expecting 21,000.
Absolutely, and they deployed 2 military police. You would have.
Shouldn't somebody be resigning?
You would see what has happened is very serious. You will see a number of other soldiers with guns and other stuff, but they are not trained for crowd control. They don't have that expertise. But for those, the military police who have the expertise, military police deployment. 2, there's a lot to probe in this matter. There is a lot to probe in this matter.
Somebody should be resigning. Somebody should be taking responsibility for it.
The commander-in-chief must be the one, the backs must stop with him.
Yeah, he must sack somebody.
There were a lot of operational lapses, and there are also lots of leadership crises. Because, Paul, we're talking about a military who were very eager. Their commander-in-chief, the president, was so eager to make changes, cut deep, and make changes at the high command. We talked about it, they didn't listen. After that, they went further to make a lot of changes. Almost every director, almost every commandant of brigades, of various units
all been changed.
were all reshuffled around. And so when you bring in an entirely fresh team with the greatest of respect to the competence and expertise of our soldiers, but then you are bringing in new teams. If you bring a new journalist to take over your show today because you're on leave, it's his first time, they'll fumble. And so when you know that you have reassigned fresh soldiers to fresh roles at various levels, and you still for 3 months have been operating without a substantive minister for defense who would give them...
Was it 3 months already?
Yes, over 3 months.
Oh, I see.
Yes, 3 months and about 2 weeks or so.
But as a deputy minister.
The deputy is deputy.
It's not the same?
There's a reason why in such a complex national security architecture, it's been so designed that the head of the military institution ought to be the minister for defense and not deputy minister. Deputy is only there to support. And so that kind of high level guidance, if we had a minister full-time, substantive, who is not divided between presenting budget and between engaging soldiers to discuss operational plans and broad guidelines, they would have known that they they advertised, made a lot of talks about recruiting,
yes. Including Sam George with the age of 35 and
they
all
even
of that.
wanted to Sam George, they even wanted to bring in 35 overage people to get into non-tradesmen. Very, very bizarre. So all these things we need to probe, even to find out the one we are hearing. The people who thronged there, were they really even eligible to be there? And that is another matter. But when you want to recruit only 4,000 people,
well, that's the space available.
only 4,000 financial clearance they obtained
nationally or Accra.
Nationally,
are you serious?
only 4,000 financial clearance.
The entire availability of spaces for the armed forces.
4,000 for this year.
It's 4,000
for this year.
And Accra alone had 21,000.
Accra alone had 21 overall. About 80,000 applied.
Out of 80,000, they'll take 4,000.
Out of 80,000, they'll take 4,000. And out of the 80,000, about 60,000 qualified. So you see, so you are generating about 16
Can't
million.
we take 10,000?
And they charge 200 cedis per person. And so, are you only interested in generating IGF? Is there a question about releases?
Well, the forms were
goods
not
and
free.
services? No, they pay 200 cedis.
You want to go to the armed forces, you pay.
You pay 200 cedis. Even when you have to go to do medicals, you must still pay. Paul, there's a lot of reform going forward we are going to suggest.
So 200 cities times 80,000 is what the armed forces get.
About 16 million.
16 million.
About 16 million.
Ghana cities.
And then after all these, the back end of your system, your platform, must inform you that even though you think you have decentralized to every region, there are still some overly subscribed centers, i.e. El-wak and Ashanti region, for which further decentralization should have been occasioned, even before you go ahead announcing and communicating. And even when you are going to schedule them, you need to schedule them optimally. And when you have done the scheduling, you need to have optimal deployment of military police to ensure there's order. That is what was lacking. But another thing that was quite telling and revealing was that whilst the young men and women, very brave, eager, potential soldiers had potential recruits were waiting at the entrance, they would be there and they would see some soldier will come and pick mention some 10, 20, whisk them in.
Wow.
And then 10, 20, whisk them in.
Oh,
so that anxiety was building up that perhaps if I don't have anybody who would send my name to be called, I might probably spend 24 hours here and go back without entry. And so that kind of agitation, all those, so people were trying to climb walls. They were trying to force their way into the premises, and all these stampede occurred. But be that as it may, Paul, we are calling that the entire military recruitment process has to be halted, so that we can probe. Yes, it has to be halted, so we can probe. We don't want the death toll to escalate. We want to halt it, probe it, and then when we have assisted them to put the right measures in place, then it can recommence.